Hey guys, and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going over 10 tips to make yourself better at playing Blitz. Now, before we get into the tips, I want you guys to have an open mind about playing Blitz. Blitz is thought to be one of the most aggressive ops in the game. While he can be aggressive in some situations, Blitz excels in playing passive and pouncing on opportunities. That mindset is how I can play at such a high level with Blitz, and it's a reason as to why I get so much crap in all chat during my games and why I get a ton of comments about why I do different things in my gameplay. And it all stems from playing Blitz in a way that most people would not expect a Blitz player to play. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these 10 tips. Drop a like if you learned anything from the video. Please consider subscribing as I'm close to 10,000 subs and that's the best way to support me. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Okay, so tip number 1 is that you don't have to go for kills and entry frags like it's the only thing that Blitz was meant to do. So what do I mean by that? Blitz is way more important to have alive than he is to just get traded out. Playing Blitz is more about getting your team into a good position to win the round and pushing defenders out of strong positions. So think about this. If you push a defender out of a position and you end up dying while going for a kill, everything you worked for could have just been for nothing. So next time you take a couple of rooms as Blitz, take some time to regroup your thoughts, make sure your team is ready, and get ready for the next step of the round. Don't sell out on a kill that may or may not be worth anything at the end of the round. Okay, so tip number 2 is to not be afraid to hold a flank as Blitz. One of the biggest surprises in the game is flanking into a Blitz that is just sitting around a corner not moving. I get it, it can seem like a rat thing to do, but this is something that comes into play mostly when your team is executing a vertical take. So as Blitz, your job is to clear the roamers out so that your team can start taking vertical fights. While your team is doing that, don't be afraid to just park your ready ass at the top of a set of stairs and just wait for your team to be ready to go for the plant. So what, whoever you kill might be a bit peeved that you're just sitting there, but your teammates will appreciate that they don't have to watch behind them. Again, don't be afraid to just sit on the flank for a bit after you've done your initial job and just give your teammates some time to do their job. Tip number 3 is to use your HP like it's a resource. Think of it this way, you can only get hit with so many impacts and C4s or only get shot in the toes and shoulders for so long before you can't take any more engagements in a round. So with that being said, the amount of HP that you have dictates what kind of engagements you can take for the rest of the round. If you have full HP, you can be super confident in an engagement where if you're low, you might want to hang back and switch things up. For the most part, you have at least one max HP engagement per round. You have to use that engagement to take the most important part of the map for your team. The more HP that you can save on that first engagement, the better off you are moving forward in each round. Tip number 4 is to not overestimate the flash distance of Blitz's shield. When I first started playing Blitz, I can't tell you how many times I would get upset by flashing somebody, then getting killed by that exact same person who was obviously not flashed. Blitz's shield is not like a flashbang. The effectiveness is not dependent on whether or not you can see the flash. It's about how far away you are from the shield when it flashes. Blitz's flash is only about 7 meters in distance, but the full flash is only maybe half of that, so you'll want to make sure that you're up close and personal with whoever you're trying to flash. One way to make sure that someone is flashed is to make sure the defender is almost within melee distance whenever you go to use it. Tip number 5 is to try not to extend too far. When you're pushing through a map, you don't want to get too far away from your teammates. Not just because they wouldn't be able to refrag you, but because you want your teammates to be in position to be able to capitalize on you pushing a defender out of any position. Now, this tip kind of piggybacks off of tip number 1, in the sense that it's good to stop and take a moment in your push to do a 360 and see where everybody on your team is. Being a good Blitz player means being able to know what push you're doing before the round starts, and being able to direct your teammates to the spots where they're able to best capitalize off of your movements. A good way to practice this is by telling your teammates what room you're pushing before you do it and asking, hey, can you sit on this window while I push? And honestly, it's a pretty good way to give your teammates freebies. Tip number 6 is to not be afraid to run different secondary gadgets on Blitz. I've seen multiple guides on Blitz where people say that smokes are the only gadget that you should be running on Blitz. I mean, heck, I even got a comment the other day that said in order to hit champ while running breaches on Blitz, I must be playing Polish people. I really don't understand what that means, but regardless, each secondary gadget has its own use and will change from site to site. Typically for me, for top floor takes, I'll bring smokes to break lines of sight. Where vertical takes, I'll bring breaching charges for hatches or in the case that one of the soft breaches dies early in the round. Basically, never let anyone tell you that there's only one correct secondary gadget that you should be bringing. Tip number 7 is to try and avoid elevation differences at all costs. Fighting someone on a different elevation than you are is super difficult because perspectives in this game are everything. If you encounter someone on the high ground, yeah, I get it, you guys can insert the Anakin I have the high ground meme, but they can see over your shield onto your head, even if you don't think they can. Also, there are spots like Pool Table on Clubhouse and Attic on Oregon where your toes are just barely visible with a gap to the floor. So just keep in mind perspectives when pushing someone on a different level from you, and if absolutely necessary, it's easier to push down a set of stairs than it is to push up a set of stairs. Tip number 8 is to learn when to shoot someone that's flashed and when to go for a melee. This tip just comes down to having a lot of experience with Blitz. When you flash an enemy, they're going to do erratic things. Don't let that get you killed. If you flash a roamer and they're just backed into a corner shooting their gun everywhere, that's the perfect time to go for a melee. Now, if you flash somebody in the doorway to sight, it's best just to back up, ADS, and shoot them so that you aren't pushing yourself into the line of sight of one of their teammates. If you flash a different roamer and they're sprinting in circles just doing all crazy stuff, it might just be better to just shoot them. Because if you go for a melee and you miss, you might give them enough time for the flash to wear off and kill you. Each situation is different, and it all just comes down to putting in the time and knowing which to do. Now, tip number 9 is to try not to run in front of your teammates while they're shooting. Yeah, this one seems a little bit intuitive, but I can assure you, even I end up with my head in my hands sometimes wondering why I ran right in front of somebody. I can understand when your teammate is shooting and you aren't there one frame, then the next frame, the back of your brain bucket is all they can see in their ACOG. So I get it, it can be hard sometimes, but you just have to recognize when those moments are. Now, our last tip is the most important yet simple tip, and that is to learn from your mistakes. The only way to make yourself better at anything is trial and error. And you have to have the mindset of, dang, yeah, I need to do that differently next time. Try to be the first person to point out your own mistakes and being okay with telling your teammates like, hey, yeah, that one's on me. Because think about it. You're taking a gun off of your team's lineup. You have to be able to make up for it and know what you're doing to get your full value out of losing that one gun. Also, admitting your own mistakes is a good way to keep the vibes high on the team and not blaming other people, and it's always better to hype up 4 other players than it is to pop off by yourself. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, drop a like on the video if you got anything from it. Please consider subscribing. This video took me all day to make, and as always, I hope you guys have an awesome day.